by this we worship and are free. Okay, here we go, everybody. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and log in.
Remember to take this off. It's stuck on me. Good morning. I'm your worship leader, Beth Belmore, and I welcome you this morning. We come together by the light of the chalice flame. We invite you to light a candle or a chalice at home along with us as we say together the words we say each week at our fellowship. We light this flame as a symbol of new life, enlightening our way, as a symbol of the warmth in every human heart. Let the lighting of this flame rekindle in us the inner light of hope, of peace, of love. May we share that light with all people.
Good morning, and welcome to the Fox Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Grace Nudek, and I've been a fellowship member for the past 9 years. If this is your first time visiting the fellowship, I would like to extend a special welcome. I joined the fellowship when I was in 8th grade. I was searching for a spiritual home and knew that I had found something great after my first visit. I was welcomed with open arms, and no question I had seemed to be too small or trivial. Throughout my time here, I have continued to be encouraged to question and to grow in the Spirit. The fellowship has continued to help me grow, and now I am about to finish my undergrad and professionally pursue ministry. This would not have been possible without the opportunities this congregation has provided for me. In that spirit, I would like to ask you to donate financially or volunteer to help keep our fellowship vibrant. With that said, if you're new here, our Director of Congregational Life, Marie Luna, would love to help get you connected. Feel free to chat with her after the service. It's time now to settle in. Take a deep breath, become aware of your body. Allow yourself to be fully present in this time together. It's good to be together.
Thank you, Grace. We are gathered together here and from our own homes, and we're so happy to see you and so glad that you are here with us. Our call to gather is "Love is my guide," modeled after the 23rd Psalm by Melissa Jeter. Love is my guide, I shall not falter. Love calls me to rest when I feel disconnected. Beloveds lead me to deep waters where I sit to think in solitude. My mind and heart reshape and adapt. Love allows my ego to slowly sink, though I move through the valley of chaos and iniquity. I shall keep my heart open, for there is elegance in patterns seen over time. Love is my breath of breath, and just as long as I have breath, I will keep steadfast on the moral path.
morning. Today is a special Sunday when we align our service with other UUs around the nation, celebrating the transformational power of radical love. Love that makes a difference in our lives and in the world. We strive to model that love here at the fellowship. For those of you who would appreciate some support, we are here to help. Please do not hesitate to reach out to Reverend Christina or me if you are in need of financial or emotional support. It is truly a joy for us to be able to offer help on behalf of this community. And if you are someone who's feeling stable and able to give today, we ask that you do so in that spirit of love. Today's special collection is to benefit Community Circles of Support. This is a local volunteer organization that offers several weekly groups for those neighbors who are formerly incarcerated to offer support. Time for these folks to support each other and give advice, and to help with goal setting and achievement. Everything from getting a job or an apartment to troubleshooting transportation issues, improving education, and following a case plan for reinstating custody. The challenges that face those in our community who have spent time in jail or in prison are a myriad, and these circles of support provide a lifeline to staying in community and living with dignity. The funds that we raise today will provide the facilitators of these groups with some additional money to offer group members who have financial need to register for a class, buy a bicycle, pay an apartment deposit, or buy professional clothes for a job interview. The funds will all stay within the Fox Valley to assist our neighbors in reclaiming their lives after incarceration. To give, you can mail a check to the fellowship with Circles of Support in the memo line, or you can donate online via our text to give function you can donate online on our website or via our text to give function on a smartphone. Be sure to follow the directions on the order of service or on the slide that you see on your screen to ensure that your donation is attributed properly to Community Circles of Support. Thank you. Your gifts are deeply appreciated.
Our settling song is How Could Anyone? How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Hello, Today, we continue to celebrate our fellowship's recent achievement of obtaining the UUA's Green Sanctuary status. I'm Roger Conitz, a member of the fellowship's Green Sanctuary Justice Action Team. Our team has worked since 2016 to develop and implement the programs needed to be awarded this certification. Personally, I have been drawn to the work of protecting our natural environment since I played in the woods as a child. Sitting in a tree or lying in a field for hours on end forged my strong desire to care for nature. It will be no surprise to you that our committee's work has been based on the UU's seventh principle of respect for the interdependent web of existence, all existence, of which we are all a part. It calls us to work for climate justice and for all living things, including the rights of nature itself. We side with love when we work to expand the network of people that we support and befriend, not only within our fellowship, but in the wider community that we live in. For example, Karen Bremmer of the UUA noted that our effort to establish a long-term relationship with our Menominee neighbors is very important. She explains that as the negative impacts of the climate crisis increase, we will find that our deepening connections with one another will build a resilience and spirit within our two communities. This is what we are learning from our Indigenous friends, the concept of the sacred. Having achieved our Green Sanctuary status, the fellowship is now encouraged to further broaden and strengthen the network of love that we share with all forms of life. Please join us.
Our first reading is entitled, We Have Met the Enemy and the Friend, by Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron. It was Pogo, a cartoon character created by Walt Kelly, who actually said, "We have met the enemy and they are us." This particular slogan now appears a lot in the environmental movement. It isn't somebody else who's polluting the rivers, it's us. The cause of confusion and bewilderment and pollution and violence isn't really someone else's problem. It's something we can come to know in ourselves. But in order to do that, we have to understand that we have met the friend, and that is us. Me. The more we make friends with ourselves, the more we can see that our ways of shutting down and closing off are rooted in the mistaken thinking that the way to get happy is to blame someone else. It's uncertain who is us and who is them. Bernard Glassman Roshi, who does a lot of work with the unhoused in New York, said that he doesn't work with them because he's such a great guy, but because going into the areas of society that he has rejected is the only way to make friends with the part of himself that he has rejected. It's all interrelated. We work on ourselves in order to help others, but we help others in order to work on ourselves. That's a very important point.
We are all Unitarians, and we're all on the side of love. But what does that really mean? They're important words. But to me, if they don't mean much if they aren't connected with side with justice and act for justice. As Martin Luther King said, love that does not satisfy justice is no love at all. I'm involved with Esther, our interfaith justice organization. For me, that is how I embody my side with love. Our fellowship is involved with Esther, and many of you are involved as well. Beth asked me to talk about why I am. There are so many worthwhile organizations that so many of us belong to. But for me, Esther has been a guiding light. We don't do service work. Now, that's vitally important, but it isn't what we do. We look at issues of injustice around immigration, the criminal legal system, environmental justice, transportation, and mental health. And we try to find out what people most impacted by these issues care about. And then we act as allies, not taking over, but standing with them, letting them lead. Is this difficult? Yes. As white middle class people, is it difficult for us to not take over? Yes. But that is our mission, and that's our credo. I would have to say one of the reasons I stay involved with Esther is because of the people I've met. Wow, just amazing, incredible, creative people who I am now proud to call my friends. Esther is part of Wisdom, our statewide organization, which is in the forefront of so many issues. Right now, Wisdom and Expo, Incarcerated People Organizing, have a campaign to end mass incarceration, and this campaign is empowering people most impacted by these issues to find their voices and to use them to fight this racist scourge. We also have an Esther Jam here at the Fellowship. If you want to join us, please do. We need you.
Our next reading is adapted from the NPR story on the show Morning Edition from February 2019. Even if you're not aware of it, it's likely that your emotions will influence someone around you today. This can happen during our most basic exchanges, say on your commute to work. If someone smiles at you, you smile back at them, says sociologist Nicholas Christakis of Yale University. That's a very fleeting contagion of emotion from one person to another. But it doesn't stop there. Emotions can spread through social networks, almost like the flu or a cold. And the extent to which emotions can cascade is eye-opening. For instance, Christakis' research has shown that if you start to become happier with your life, a friend living close by has a 25% higher chance of becoming happier too. And your partner is more likely to feel better as well. The happiness can even spread to people to whom you are indirectly connected. It's not just happiness that spreads. Unhappiness and anger can be contagious too. And you don't have to be in the same house or city to catch someone else's emotions. There's evidence that emotional contagion can spread through our digital interactions too. A study of nearly 700,000 Facebook users suggests that we can pick up on and mirror the emotions we encounter on our social media feeds. We are reminded then of what we should already know and hopefully remember from Mr. Rogers. It's good for us to be kind. Negativity leads to more negativity, but a single act of kindness can help stop the spread.
Hi everybody, I'm Leah Thibodeau, and I love connecting people with something bigger than themselves. I think that's why I really love my niche in the nonprofit sector as a volunteer engagement professional. Volunteers often take on some very heavy and difficult subjects. Poverty, substance use disorder, homelessness, hunger, crime, and assault are just some of the subjects that volunteers take on. In my current role at Casa of the Fox Cities, I engage with volunteers who advocate in court for children who have experienced abuse or neglect. CASAs, or court-appointed special advocates, become a source of hope and resilience for children. Child welfare is a complex matter. The system doesn't always seem to emphasize a sense of urgency for children. Children can remain in care for years without having an understanding of how they fit into the world, and that can take an emotional toll on everyone involved. Working with our CASA volunteers through some of those tough times, I see them leaving our conversations feeling renewed, reconnected to the sense of mission and purpose. They're re-energized and ready to keep showing up for their CASA kiddos. And I know that I've just had a hand in spreading a little more love in our community.
As we explore today the ways that each of us lets our love ripple out into the wider world, I have reflected on how that evolves from our experiences, passions, and our personal expressions of faith. I was raised in a fairly homogeneous dairy farm community in rural Wisconsin, and was also thoroughly raised Presbyterian from birth through high school. I mark as a turning point in my faith journey at age 17 when my parents, through my church, made it possible for me to spend part of a summer in Spanish Harlem in New York City. As a framework for the times, I will mention that while I was in the city in 1969, I was hearing about this unique music festival that was exploding in upstate New York. I worked with a young white couple in a neighborhood that was predominantly home to people of color. I was a scared kid. Some of the buildings destroyed in earlier racial protests and riots were still piled in rubble, and some of the community lacked functioning utilities and even garbage pickup. This was a neglected area. The couple's focus was community building with families to access adequate nutrition and eat the foods that they loved on a food stamp or less budget. That couple chose to live in the community they served, also on a below poverty level income. Their positive, loving attitude was contagious. And I cherish them still as two impactful role models. I learned a multitude of lessons, including starting from a place of learning to understand the situation before promoting solutions, the impact of generational poverty, how to join with, not thinking I could be the fixer, and the concept of nothing about us without us. Primarily, I came back to Wisconsin beginning to understand being white and middle class. As a result, my faith evolved to become my identified mission in the wider world, to love and to learn. A shift from my view of faith as church on Sunday only. The notion that one often spends the first part of life identifying those gifts and subsequently matching them with what the world needs then made total sense to me. How best do we put who we are, what we believe, and let love fire our faith into action? I give gratitude to my parents for facilitating my New York and other experiences. They were insightful and courageous. I ask how we instill in our children the spark to put their gifts into action in service for our world's needs. I think each of us could name an impassioned educator or advocate whose words and actions have inspired us. Their energy, knowledge, and actions are contagious. One of mine is early environmental activist and scientist Rachel Carson, who espoused that this was best established in childhood with sensory and emotional experiences in nature, learning to love and care for the natural world. If they did, she said, they would have less appetite for the activities that threatened the natural world. In her book of writings, The Sense of Wonder, she also said, and I quote, "I wish there would be a good fairy to give each child a sense of wonder so indestructible that it would last throughout life," end of quote. I am encouraging each of us to recognize how our faith and passion are contagious in the wider world when we serve with love. And how can we be the work of that good fairy for the next generations?
I've been thinking a lot about viruses these days. I'm sure they haven't escaped your notice either. I'm not technically immune compromised, but I do have a pretty ineffective immune system from a childhood spent with chronic illness and lots of antibiotics. So it's typical that anything that comes along will get me sick. I hate when I go to the doctor and they ask, have you been around anyone who's been sick? And I think, I have 2 young children, one in public school and one in daycare, and I essentially shake hands for a living. So yeah, probably I've been around someone who's sick. If my kid comes home with a runny nose or a fever, the odds are he will be better in a couple days, and I will be sick for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, my husband has an immune system of steel, and he almost never catches anything that comes into our house. It's just the way it works. The thing about viruses that is different than bacteria is that they're sneaky. They hijack our own cells, and they trick our cells into doing the work of replication and reproduction for the virus. Viruses, unlike bacteria, can't replicate on their own. They're not alive, so to speak. So they land on our cells, they inject their DNA, and then they trick our cell into using that DNA to multiply on behalf of the virus. Sometimes, depending on the virus, it's more complicated than that. But despite how awful it is for our health, it's a pretty amazing evolutionary strategy for the viruses. I have to give them that much. And so what do we do with that? We try our best to avoid letting the virus into our body. We wash our hands, we clean the surfaces and the air, we avoid sick people if possible, we add some distance between our bodies, we wear masks. And if the virus does get into our body, hopefully we have been able to be vaccinated to keep the number of hijacked cells to a minimum. In addition to reducing symptoms for the vaccinated person, the vaccine can also help prevent the amount of virus that then that person can possibly shed onto other people, particularly protecting people who can't be vaccinated, like elders and young children, or those with compromised immune systems. So I've been thinking a lot about viruses, and the other thing I've been noticing as we think about this latest surge of COVID-19 is the way we behave, particularly the steep rise in anger, frustration, rudeness, and outright misbehavior in many corners of our society. I heard on NPR recently that airlines have seen twice as many unruly passengers in the past year than in any other year. Twice as many. Restaurants report customers screaming at their wait staff. Hospitals and doctors' offices find themselves dealing with angry patients and families as they strive to care for a huge influx of sick people. Even churches are not exempt from these trends. I have read countless stories on social media from colleagues who have been outright mistreated by people in their congregations who are lashing out in the only place that they feel safe to do so, their church. The problem with this kind of negativity is that it can be contagious. Imagine a time when you were on the receiving end of someone's bad mood, criticism, or anger. Did you leave that interaction feeling like, what a great day? Likely not. Usually those kind of interactions take me a long time to shake off. My own bad mood might then spread to others around me, and so on. So what do? How do we protect or inoculate ourselves from that kind of negativity? I have 3 strategies to suggest. They all help me, and I hope they can help you too. And I've described them here in terms of virus mitigation, just to keep this metaphor going. So let's show the slide. Number 1, wear a mask or gratitude practice. Number 2, wash your hands, refuse to pass it on. And number 3, vaccinate, or side with love, service to others. So number 1, wear a mask. This is your first line defense. And when we're talking about negativity, this looks like a consistent gratitude practice. Cultivating a stance of gratitude provides an ongoing defense against hopelessness, anger, and general grumpiness. But that cultivation takes practice. Every morning or every night, I try to think of several things that I am grateful for. Sometimes we might have big things to be grateful for. An upcoming trip, a new baby in the family, an exciting opportunity at work. But most of the time, the gratitude is small. I'm grateful for a warm coat in this cold weather. I'm grateful for this music, for my transportation to work, for my opposable thumbs, for this juicy pear. Remembering these small gratitudes can be even more powerful in helping to develop that mask that protects us. One practice that I find particularly helpful is to flip the things that I am not grateful for on their heads. When I was in college and stressed about all the reading that I had to do, I would say to myself, I am grateful that I can read. When someone is critical of my work here at the fellowship, I think, I'm grateful for such a meaningful job, that my work impacts people deeply. When my kids are driving me bonkers, I think, these beautiful children were my deepest desire. I am grateful for them. I am grateful for daycare. A consistent stance of gratitude is the basic protection against the virus of negativity. It helps me ward it off before it can get into my body and before it can spread any further. Number 2 is wash your hands. Protect yourself in case that virus has gotten onto you. Don't pass it on. When negativity comes your way, especially if it's not about you, and holy moly, it's often not about you, it is important to not be a multiplier of the virus. If you're in customer service, you know this. People are often angry about things that you can't control. What's in stock, how fast the meal is ready, when the installation will happen. The negativity comes right at you, and you have 4 options. Number 1, return the negativity back to the person, usually by being mean or rude back to them. Number 2, pass it along to someone else, the chef or the manager. They should be the ones who are getting the brunt of this negativity. Number 3, you could absorb it and seethe. Or number 4, you can wash it off. Option 4 is, of course, the healthiest way to handle this. It's not easy, but passing it along or absorbing it doesn't actually help anything. Finding a way in your own heart to recognize that this negativity is not about you, nor is it even really about the chef or the manager. It's just this person's issue. In the branch of counseling called systems theory, this is called self-differentiation. Self-differentiation is the recognition of where you end and where someone else begins. Their bad feelings are their own. You do not have to take them on, nor do you have responsibility for fixing them. And neither do you have to dish them back. Just let them go. Sometimes I even say to myself inside my head, this is not mine, this is not mine. Sometimes I even physically wash my hands as a way to help those feelings run through my body and out again. So I don't have to carry them around, and so I don't spread them any further. And finally, number 3, the biggie, vaccinate. Or in the case of negative feelings and behavior, finding a way to bolster yourself to actively resist the virus of fear, frustration, and anger if it does manage to permeate your defenses. Kindness and service to others in the wider world provides a kind of inoculation to the negativity that you might encounter. When you widen your lens to the greater challenges and needs in our community, when we make an effort to be of service, to spread love and kindness, when we take actions to further the cause of justice, these practices train our heart and our mind to recognize the negativity before it multiplies inside of us. And then it transforms our outlook back into one of hope and love. It's harder to join in the grumbling when you're worrying about the safety or well-being of people in your community that you're working to support. It's harder to get caught up in drama when you're focused on helping others. Kindness and service to others are also contagious, and they can have a huge impact on those who are also feeling the symptoms of negativity. I know when I am having a grumpy day, a kind word from someone can almost miraculously help turn it around. When I'm feeling worn down by the anger, hate, stress of the world, a couple hours of selfless action can bring me back to a state of hopefulness. Today is Side with Love Sunday, and the UUA has lots of resources on their website, sidewithlove.org, or you can go to their Action Center at sidewithlove.org/Action Center. There's lots of ways to connect to our national faith-based justice efforts. We heard from 3 fellowship members earlier in our service about how they side with love in their lives and practices. Our Justice Action Ministries, or JAMs, here at the fellowship are constantly offering ways to help people get connected with local justice causes. You can find more by clicking the link in the scroll newsletter for the Justice Hub, or by going to our website, fvuuf.org/justice-hub. It's always there to find out what's going on and how you can get connected. Siding with love means that we recommit ourselves to our UU values, to making love real in the world. We can't fix everything. We can't overcome every injustice, at least not alone. But while negativity is contagious, so is love. And when we work together, we can make a meaningful impact. I know the world is extra hard place. It's an extra hard place to live right now. Collectively harder than many of us have seen in our lifetimes. I am with you on that. I feel the stress of the constant changes and pivots that we are all having to make over and over again. I honor the decision fatigue, especially for those of us with the responsibility of caring for parents, siblings, or children. I acknowledge the exhaustion of the news cycle and the anger that people won't just do what I think they need to do. I am with you. And siding with love acknowledges first that there is a love. There is a love that is greater than each of us individually, a love that holds us all in its embrace, whether you call that love community or hope or the universe or God, that we want to align ourselves with that love. Aligning ourselves with that love is not a toxic positivity or false cheerfulness that denies the reality of harm in the world. It is a commitment to being love's body in the world, which means we need to know what our hearts and minds and voices and actions are spreading. We need to know and protect and inoculate ourselves from that negativity and instead choose to spread love over and over again. Amen. And may it be so.
Please join me in singing Answering the Call of Love, 10:14. The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide. And so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim. We are answering the call of love. And sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim. We are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim. We are answering the call of love. One more time. We are answering the call of love.
Thank you for that, Steve. We are answering the call of love. And part of our commitment to each other and to that love is bringing our joys and our concerns to this time together each week. Witnessing and honoring our life's journeys is what truly allows us to be a community in love. We will put in the chat box those joys and concerns that have been submitted by people in our circle of care. And you can also share in the chat box whatever joy, concern, prayer request, or intention might be in your heart or on your mind. For care and connection during the week, please reach out to myself or contact our office. If you would like your news to be included in our weekly Joys and Concerns email, you can call or contact anyone on staff, or you can fill out our website form. May the joys and concerns we share with each other, or those we simply hold in our hearts' silent sanctuaries, may they allow our joy to be amplified, our sorrow comforted, and our life's journeys witnessed. We now turn our attention to the joys and concerns wider than those of this gathered community. We allow our mind and our heart to reach out in ever-widening circles, outward like ripples in water. The first stone that we place in our water this morning is for the joys, concerns, and transitions that are here among us. And as that water ripples out, we add another stone to expand our hearts to Wisconsin. We hold in our hearts indigenous communities in northern Wisconsin, specifically the Bad River Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, and the land and water of the region. We hold this amid the Enbridge Corporation's plans to relocate a segment of their Line 5 pipeline, threatening the community and the environment. We pray that those in power begin listening to our indigenous siblings, and we pray that this harmful project is halted. We add our next stone for the United States. We pray for the family and loved ones of Amir Locke, another Black man who was killed by police in Minneapolis this week. We hold space for grief and anger and exhaustion as our faith calls us to proclaim again with love, Black Lives Matter. And as the ripples continue, we recognize our interconnectedness across borders and oceans as we add another stone to pray for peace between Russia and Ukraine. We enfold all who are celebrating and all who are suffering in the embrace of our hearts, and we commit ourselves to acts of compassion and justice in service to those circles beyond our own. May this moment of silence help make it so.
Our time together is coming to a close, which means our time to return to the world and our daily lives is beginning. Remember, there are always ways to get more connected here, including online, and to live our faith more fully. Please be sure to read the Weekly Scroll emailed newsletter or let us know if you're not on that email list. You can also check out the back of your order of service for some highlights of events coming up. Now, as we prepare to leave this gathering, we invite you to consider what you wish to take home with you. What lesson, idea, or theme you will carry with you from this time together back into your daily life. Our hope is that it will serve as inspiration and empowerment for your week ahead. And now, please join me in our unison words for extinguishing our chalice flame, even as we continue to hold its warmth and light in our hearts. As we extinguish this flame, let us go with hope in our hearts, with our spirits renewed, and with a deeper understanding of life's mystery. Let us carry the light of compassion and commitment to build a better world. After these closing words, we will hear a postlude song. We invite those of you who want to stay on Zoom for small group conversation. We will have a newcomer group with me. Another group will be hosted by a member of our care team if you have something on your heart you would like to share more deeply about. Another group will be for conversation about the themes of this service with Beth and Reverend Christina. And there will be a final group for informal, unmoderated chit-chat. Everyone else is welcome to use that time to log off. Go in contagious love, sharing goodness with the world. Go in peace, knowing we wait to embrace you upon your return.
Leave us not alone in hatred's wake. Show us how to love.